on the daf, doesn't cop that the daf is on, calls me and knocks me off the Zoom. Like, we're middle of the daf.
All
Oh.
right, sorry. Very sorry.
I'm joking, Ronald. It's fine. It's yesterday. I had the same thing with somebody else in the middle of the daf. But yeah. Anyways, that knocked me off for some reason. I don't know why. So I apologize. Well, either way, we didn't start yet, so we're fine. Second lineup, Bava Mebei, second lineup from the bottom. Sahanu Beitrei, to have a diary. So the two brothers that they were living together. One guy lived on the top floor, but Chad have a diary tatoi, and one lived on the bottom floor. So, Stam, before we even continue, one of the, the Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, because I'm busy with this now, because with the heebie-jeebies, because food under the bed, and et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things from Yehuda Chassid is that brothers can't live in the same town, and some say it means in the same house, right? Not in the same town, right?
Yaakov, it's a good thing we're not knowing like that one.
I
as
know.
long as we can swim
Well,
together, Tiago. As long as we can swim together.
There you go. No, but a lot of the Rabbi Yehuda, that's the point of this whole thing. A lot of the Rabbi Yehuda Chassids are against Gemaras and Shas. I think this is one of them that they bring. What do you mean? Look from here. The two brothers are living in the same house. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that this
What does
is
that
one
mean?
of the,
Two brothers can't live in the same town, the same house. At what age?
Rabbi Yehuda Chassid has a lot of things. No,
I'm saying,
obviously once they're
Oh,
not
married?
siblings.
Yeah, Liner. No,
Not
once the
siblings,
mother
but
has
when
the baby, she has to throw that baby out.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
Both.
Twins is a big problem.
I'm saying when they get married, they can't, I'm saying the Yehuda Chassid is saying when you get married, you can't live in the same town.
No, once they're married, you ship them off.
Did we lose him?
Is it talking about twins? Identical twins?
Yeah, we lost them.
Oh.
So when someone asks him if you get a haircut Rosh Chodesh, he's going to say, "Do you have any brothers that live in the same town as you?"
Am I back on now?
We heard you just now.
You finished fighting with parrots, or I was?
Yeah, I never fight with parrots.
Okay.
So if someone's asked you if they
really
can get a
apologize.
haircut at Rosh Chodesh, you're going to say, "Do you live in the same town as your brother?"
So that's where that exactly, Naftali. That's a very good point. At what point, which Rabbi Yehuda Chassid do we hold of? Which ones do we not hold of?
Right. Okay.
Right. So, anyways, but a lot of the Rabbi Yehuda Chassid seemingly are against Gemaras and Shas. So, okay, there we go. Bottom line is you have two brothers living in the same house. Yeah. Anyways, Isvar Tatoi. So literally, the translation of that is the bottom house got broken. But Rashi says Isvar doesn't mean broken; it means it started sinking. This is perfect for bungalow colony, right? Because the houses, the bungalows sink, right?
That's where I came from. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the old days.
Yes. You got to jack up the bungalow. So who's that going to affect? That's going to affect the bottom one, the bottom guy. Upper guy is not going to affect a regular height. So that's what isvar means. Isvar means that it started sinking. And so Amar Lei, Tatoy Loi, so the bottom guy said to the upper guy, Tav and Nivne, let's go and build ourselves a new house. Amar Lei, so of course, what does the upper guy say? Why do I got to knock down the house? Why do we have to knock down the house? I'm living perfectly fine. On Tamid Aleph, now we start today's daf. Amar Lei, so he said to him, Istre Anov Avne, I'm going to knock down your house and pay for it, meaning I'm paying for your chalik, you to chip in. I'm going to knock down the whole house and pay. Amar, so the maid, but I have no place to live temporarily. You're knocking me out of the house. Fine, you're going to pay for a new house, but where am I living? Amar, I'm not so I'm going to rent you a place. Amar, like I don't move out. So he's pretending the lower guy says I can't live here. The shit it's sinking. It's like living in a baby. Right? Pulls them back. Strife akrises. For all the strife akupuk. What you have to do is bend on your stomach and go inside. And bend on your stomach when you have to sort of like a 12 he has to come in the room. In the room. Right? So Amar Rav Chama, so again, this back and forth. The upper guy is not giving it to the lower guy, and the lower guy doesn't know what to do. So how do we paskin? So Amar Rav Chama, Bedina Kama Akev. The din is that the guy living, the brother living upstairs, can be ma'akev on the guy living downstairs, and they don't have to. He does not have to leave. Right? Then the Gemara says, "Can I be heard?" Somebody just.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just looking at when I see the service bar goes down and get So Amar Rav Chama Bedina Kama Akev. So Rav Chama Paskin, the din is he's ma'akev and he can't build it. Fine. The Gemara says, but that's only if the beams are not less than 10 tefachim. But if the beams go less than 10 tefachim, less than 10, you're in my reshus for loy mishabed loch, and it's not. You would think that less than 10 tefachim is not even livable. It's not considered livable, right? We know that a sukkah can't be less than 10 tefachim. But that's not the taina. The taina is, well, now that it's less than 10 tefachim, so he's saying to the upper guy, you're living in my reshus. You're upstairs is in my reshus. I don't want you in my reshus. Right? Fine. So if it goes less than 10 tefachim, then the upper guy has to give in and they have to rebuild it. Fine. And then another caveat. That's also they didn't make a t'nai with each other. If they made the t'nai between each other, then they have, meaning that if something happens to the house that the upper guy has to leave, then Sasri Rabbanon, then they have to knock it down and build it, right? Which is obvious. If they make a deal, then of course the upper guy has to leave the house so that he could live. Okay. So so what's the t'nai, right? When they make a t'nai, so how much, right? How much does he have to pay? Amar Rabbanan, meaning how much does the upstairs guy have to pay? Amar Rabbanan, Kamei de Rabba, Pashmei de Mazucha, Berei de Rav Nachman, Amar Shmei de Rav Nachman, Ka'aisis Shenidu, Ruma Kachatzi Arkoi, Ukachatzi Rachli. He has to give him enough of a height that that basically, and then we need the builders for this one. But basically, is it has to be the height that a house is supposed to be is learned from the Beis Hamikdash, right? Which is the Beis Hamikdash was, what were the measurements again? What was the Beis Hamikdash?
Base Siam, 5,000.
No, yeah, but it's right. So how did it go? It was 40 long, right? We learned last week it was 30 in the beginning. Not even last, last week 30. The Beis Hamikdash was 30 amas high. The first Beis Hamikdash 30 amas high. It was 40 amas long and 20 amas wide. So that's 60. So basically, what you do is you take the length and the width, you add it together, and whatever that is, the height is supposed to be half. So the Beis Hamikdash was 40 by 20, right? 40 by 20, and then with a height of 30. Yeah. So basically, that is the height. The height is a 50%. So Mamela, if his house starts shrinking to less than 50% of its width against its length, so then that's how high the upper guy has to. That's how much the upper guy has to pay.
I'm assuming that if it's less
Yeah,
than 10 tvachim, it's you don't need it. That's even it's not to the exclusion if it's less than 10 tvachim, you also have to rebuild.
What are you saying?
Meaning that we had said when you don't make it tonight, then less than 10 tvachim, you have to rebuild. So I'm assuming
Right.
that this is if it's less than 10 tvachim, it doesn't really matter. Meaning in case there's a very small
You're
house.
saying if it's less than 10 tefachim, meaning that they can't, he only has to build it to above 10 tefachim and then he could stop.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Then you have to rebuild it. I'm saying, but less than 10 tvachim even without it tonight. And this is, if it's, meaning in a case where less than 10 tvachim is still half the height. That's my point.
You're saying that if for some reason he was in a very small house as it is,
right,
and 10 tefachim is less than half the height, so then I hear your point. I hear that. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, but that's how much he has to do. Didn't I tell you not to hang empty jugs or pitchers or whatever it is on Rav Nachman? Meaning, they said this b'shem Rav Nachman, and he says, "What are you talking about? Rav Nachman never said such a thing." Rav Nachman. This is what Rav Nachman said: "Ki dairi inchi." Right? When people live in a dira, right? Meaning, it's as long as it's livable, as long as the bottom one is livable, that's enough. The kama, and how much is that? It's enough that you bring. Now I don't understand what the pshat in this measurement is. Enough that you bring a suraisa the mechuzah v'hada. These bundles of reeds from mechuzah, and you should be able to go in. Meaning you should be able to. L'chara means to hold them up like a lulav. Right? That's l'chara what it means. Hold it up like a lulav, and then and that's how it would. And that's how much room.
Okay, I'm back. Now you get to see my handsome face. Good. Now it's good service.
Is that
All
like the wingspan with the lulav has to be enough to turn around?
Yeah, the chayr, that's what it sounds like, right?
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Um,
Is that a dairy lulav or not a different lulav?
I don't know. I don't know. Also, the chayr, it should be up, right? Not around. And then he says, you can bring it in, right? So the chayr, I don't know. It sounds like I'm not sure where this thing comes from.
Well, Rashi says the thought studim, so up is the direction.
No, the chayr. I mean, we're not dealing with in length here, even though based on the previous sheet that we are.
Right, I'm saying that we're talking about height here, and he's saying even that you have to be able to go up with these things.
Right. So
That's one of the directions. Rashi says. Rashi says you have to be able to swing it around in all directions.
Correct. But the direction, all the directions doesn't do. Here we're dealing with the height.
Height is the direction, no?
No, I'm saying, but it's now. Who cares about length and width? No. It's okay. I don't know. I'm not sure. Fine. Then let's see. Okay, so now another similar story. So who gavra to have a bnei ashisa achari kavi techavre. There was a guy who built a wall. I'm sorry, not bnei boni ashisa achuri kavi techavre. He built a wall next to the window of his friend. Right. So this also happens a lot in the Rav Steinman book. There's a lot of stories about this going on in Bnei Brak. You know, people building walls right up against windows, and Rav Steinman getting involved and saying, "Don't make fights," etc., etc. But basically, a guy built a wall. So Amar Lei ka mafala salai. He said, "You're making my house dark. Awful. You're making my house dark." Amar Lei Zacharna lachacha. He said, What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take your window, close it up. Zacharna lachacha. I'm gonna close it up here. Babidnalach kavi le'el mashyasa, and I'm going to make a new window for you, higher than the wall. Amar Lei.
But what is the builder's just doing the job that the Baal tells him to do? Is the builder the owner?
You talk the builder of the original house or the wall?
No, who's talking now? He said to the builder, "You're darkening my house." So the builder replied back to him, but the builder is just the builder. He's not the owner.
No, I think he means the owner.
Okay.
I'm saying what happened. The owner said, "You know what? I'll make you new windows, right? I need to build my fence up against the window. So I'll close up this window and I'll build you a new window."
Okay.
Right? So I'm like, Kamaras less user. Do you damaging? He says, "What's gonna do?" So I'm sorry. Let's go back. I'm gonna make you a new window. Cover means a new window. Window. The L mashisai higher than my wall. Right. So so Amar he said, "Kamaras leila shasa." You're gonna make my wall. You can't start making holes in walls and then closing up one hole, put up another hole. You're gonna damage my wall. So Amar so he said to him, "Starnalach lashisach." He said, "Okay, I'll knock down your whole wall. I took to the kavi up until where we put the new windows. Baninala vavidna lach kavi pinyana, and I'm gonna make new windows. Le'elma shasai higher than the wall. Meaning I'm gonna make it higher than the wall. Meaning he's saying I'm gonna raise. I think what he means is I'm gonna do it all above where your window is. Meaning he's not gonna knock down any of the existing wall. So right, a wall that is old on the bottom and it's new at the top, like Kaim, is not gonna stand. Right? Okay, so then Amrale, so he said, Starnallah ad la'ara. She said to him, I'm going to he says, I'll tear the wall down all the way down to the ground. Ubaninallah, and I'm gonna build you a whole new wall. By one second, and I'm gonna make you a new window there. Meaning I'll knock down the entire wall. One second, let me just finish those stories. Amrale, he says, I can't have one new wall next to an old wall, right? Like Kaima, it's not going to last. One new wall against the old house not going to last. So Amarle, okay, I'll knock down your whole house. And then I'll build you new windows. Amarle, Leslie took the Lameda. Excuse me, I have no place to live. Amarle, Agir Nalach Tuchta. Excuse me. He says, I'll rent you a place. I don't want to have the tir. Okay, so what's the psak? But didn't come he's being ma'akev, right? And therefore he's got to knock down the wall, meaning he's wronging somebody, he's got to knock down the wall. So it says Hainu Haf. This is the same case. Why do I need two cases? These cases are saying the same thing. You can't make a guy leave, etc., etc. So even though the guy is only using this house for storage, for straw and little pieces of wood, that's all the guy's using it for. A window should not take effect at all, right? Yeah. Even so, he could still have the timer, which doesn't sound like he's going to get the Tzaddik of the Year award. This guy, right? I'm saying he's holding out and making a guy knock down a whole wall that he built just in order because it's going to not give light into his house. That's a little. It sounds a little extreme. But anyways, yeah,
it's a funny concept. The Gemara says "my kamashmalon." These are the cases. What do you mean, my kamashmalon? I mean, why did the Gemara bring it down?
Why is it bringing two cases?
I mean, it's a kasha of a ma'aser. That's what happened. These two cases. You're saying why did the Gemara bring it down? What's the Gemara asking? That's the way the case happened. You know, it came to Rav Chama.
No, but it's good. But why do you have to bring both cases?
You're saying the Gemara just should have left the case out.
Wait, did they go to Rav Chama?
Yeah, I'm Rav Chama. It didn't come Akiv.
Yeah, but they didn't go to Rav Chama. These were the Meisim. Rav Chama brought them down in Shir, and he said, "Oh, this is what Allah is." Why did he bring two cases of Shir? They didn't go to him. It doesn't say Asu l'kamei de Rav Chama.
Okay, Gershon, what was bothering you?
It doesn't really matter, but one of the lines the Gemara said before was a new wall on top of an old wall, like Kaima. I mean, we have a 2,000-year-old wall that's exactly like that. What's like Kaima?
You're bringing. This was the Jesse had this kasha. You bringing kashas from the Kaisel, from the Beis Hamikdash.
Hashem was geyser on the base of Migdash that it wouldn't fall. Why is that a kasha? You have kasha on Hashem? Hashem was geyser, it had to stand. Without Hashem, he said it would stand.
You could also ask Gershon that they clearly added on to the Kaisel.
That's what I'm saying. The top of it is new.
I'm saying, so you're asking on the new wall or attached? Which part are you asking?
The whole thing. The Gemara had two lines. One, that if you build new on top of old, it won't stand. And the next one, that a new next to an old wall won't stand. The one thing, if the guy said, "I don't like it," then say not to stand is just not true.
I hear. I'm going to go with Jesse's kasha, which was that can't bring any rayas from the Beis Hamikdash. But whatever. Anyway, yeah. Okay, weiter. Hanu Beitrei Achi the Palgi Bahadi Adadi. You had two brothers that were splitting a Yerusha. Chad Matri Aspelida, one got a huge house. The Chad Matri Tarbitza, and one got a garden. Yeah. So, like Rashi says, the garden, meaning they split. One guy got the mansion or a large house, and the other guy got the, what do you call it? The garden next to it. Azalahu the Machi Tarbitza. So the guy that got the garden, and the Kabani Yeshusa, who were the Spalida. So he decided, I guess, since he didn't get the house, he only got the garden, or the yard. So he decides he's going to build a big wall right up next to his brother's house. Amalei, so he told him, "Come on, you're making it dark. I mean, how you can't go building a wall by my house."
This was just lahachis to bother him.
I don't know if it's lahachis or not. I don't think it makes
a
difference.
He went just to block the light from him. What was the purpose of it?
I don't know. Maybe he put up the wall and wanted to play handball. I don't know.
He wanted to build himself a house.
Listen. What? He wanted to build himself a house.
Why not?
Yep.
We don't have much information here. He just built a wall. That's all we know.
Right.
Could be for anything.
Yeah. Okay, whatever it is, he built the wall. He built the wall. So I'm a lay. Come on, fellas, so you're making it dark. I'm a lay, but I built it on my own. I built it by my own on my own property. What does that have to do with you? See, now the Rashi says a very interesting thing on this. Well, what's the time? Says you only yarshin right now. You don't have a chazaka that you've been in for 3 years. I'm allowed to build my wall because who told you to build a house here? Like, meaning, let's say a guy's wall is there first, and then a guy comes and builds a house. Obviously, the guy with the house cannot have tinus on the guy with the wall. So basically, we're saying that there's no chazaka here that the house was here, right? Because he says that when you just yashin, you have no chazaka at all. So again, Omar Rav Chana says B'din K'Omar Le that that he does not have to knock down the wall. So it is a little different psak. But again, Rav Chama's paskening that he said you don't have to knock down the wall. So I'm a little Rav Ashi, Ma'ashnama Tanya. So why is this different that we learned in the Brayso? Shnei Achim Shechalka. If you have two brothers who are splitting a Yerusha, Echam and Natal Sadeh Kerem, Echam and Natal Sadeh Lavan. One of them takes a vineyard, and one of them takes a Sadeh Lavan, field that has Lavan is grain, right? Yesh loy lebala kerem dalar amas b'sadeh Lavan. So the bala kerem gets, because this is what we've been learning in Bikurim. You need 4 amas in order to be able to work a vineyard. You need to have 4 amas. That's why we keep saying in Bikurim, in the Mishnah, and not Bikurim. And what did I say? Did I say Bikurim? I said in Klaim. In Mishnah's Klaim, we keep saying that in order to separate a vineyard from other vegetables, you need 4 amas, because 4 amas is the amount of room that you need in order to get around the vineyard to work it. So basically, when they have a neighboring vineyard and a neighboring empty field. So the Bala Kerem can take 4 amas out of the field, of the grain field, in order to be able to deal with his vineyard. Because that's considered one of the conditions that they yash in this field. So you see, so that you wanted it's based on conditions of normal ways of living. So Mamela, when this guy yash in the house, he yash in the house without a wall next to it, so he should be able to be yotze that way. So the answers are Malay Hasam Dalula Dadi. We're talking about where they went up to each other, meaning they split everything. They had a negotiations. And one said, I'm taking the vineyard. One said, I'm taking the stay I love him. Right? So the Gemara answers, Abal Hacha. I'm saying, so that's what we're saying. So each one did they did an equal split. So Mamela, part of an equal split is that you get the 4 amas of the other field. So the Gemara asks, Abal Hachamai, but here, what are you going to say? The loyolula dadi, that they didn't make a fair split. Are we talking about stupid people? The high shokal is bleeder. You're telling me that one guy, how stupid is the guy? They're splitting an inheritance. One guy takes a palace or a mansion or whatever you want to call it. The high shokal tarbitza, and this guy's taking the yard, the garden. And they didn't work these things out with each other. So my answer is Amalei. He said back to Nihida Alula Dadi. Yes, they did calculate it with each other. Demei Livni Kshuri Vahudri, but what they calculated was the worth of the bricks and the beams and the hudri, anything that makes it nice. Demei Avira Loy Alula Dadi. But the airspace they did not make a cheshbon with. Right? They went. How I guess this yard must have been worth a lot of money. This garden. Right. So basically, what they're saying is that they split. Okay, you take the house, and I get the garden, and that's how they split it. However, but they didn't deal with the airspace. So Mamela, since they didn't deal with the airspace, That's why they're having this fight over the wall. Okay, so then the Gemara says, what you did is you split with me first a palace. Hashta Mashrasli Aduna. Now you're giving me a dark house. Meaning when we split it, I was supposed to get a palace with the windows and everything like that. And now, you're getting the garden. And now I'm stuck with just a palace. I mean, a dark palace. So Barashi Shema Ba'alma Polyglot. I remember we had this in where do we have this? Kedushin? Bava Kama? I don't know. We had this that there's something that you can just rent somebody something. Was it Kedushin? Can't be. It was too long ago. I would never remember. Maybe not. Maybe.
I don't know. The next footnote mentions says Kedushin 60b.
Hold on. Did we have it in? Hold on.
I think we did in Bava Metzia.
Yeah, we have it in Bava Metzia and Daf Kuf Dalit. That makes sense. It was only a month ago. Less. Hold on. We had it before that too, so we must have had it in both. We must have had a Kedushin and a Bava Metzia. Yeah. Otherwise, I would never remember it, unfortunately. But anyways, so he was just selling it in name, and that's it. I'm a base core offer. The guy says, I'm selling you a base core of dirt. Even though it's not a lesech is half of a base core. Even though it's only a lesech, meaning he reaches it, meaning it's his. It was called a base core. But a base core means whatever measurement they call it. Meaning, what would be the example of this? This. I guess if you tell a guy, I want to rent you a house in the country. So in the country, at least it used to be, a house is a bungalow. The guy comes up and says, this ain't no house, this is a bungalow, right? So we say, no, that's a house. In Sullivan County in the summer, that's called a house, right? So then he would be forced to take it, something like that. So that's what's saying here, even though it's only half a base core, but since that's the way they refer to it, so then that's it. The Miskari base core, but that's only if people taka call it a base core. If he just decided to say, I'm calling this a base core, even though it's half the size, then that obviously doesn't work. Pardus, Michael, he says, I'm selling you a pardus, right? What do you call a pardus? It's a word for it. I don't know.
Orchard.
Yes, thank you. An orchard, right? I'm selling you an orchard. By reminding even though there's no pomegranates in it, he gets it. He only was selling him the name, which is a orchard, a pardus, which Rashi says is for pomegranates. But with the Mystikare pardus, and that's when he calls it, has to be called a pardus. You have to be calling this thing even without pomegranates a pardus. One more example: I'm selling you a vineyard. Even if there's no grapes in it, he still has to keep it. He's only selling him the name. And that's when it's called a vineyard. If it's called a vineyard, so then even if it doesn't have grapes in it, if that's how people refer to it, then that's what it is. So Mamela, that's what he sold him when we're saying we sold him a house. He was selling him a house. Then didn't have to necessarily have light, right? So the Gemara says, "Mi dami." You can't compare the two cases. There, the Meichel Delekech Shmaz Vinilach. I sold you a name. But here he could say, I split it for this reason, that the that I want to live in the house the same way your father lived with it. And your father lived with it without a wall up against the window, so I also want to. Meaning when it's a sale, when it's a buy and a sell, so Mamela, it's he could tell him, listen, this is the way the community calls it. They call it a vineyard even though there's no grapes. He's stuck with it. Right? But here, when they did the split, it's not a sale. He said, we split the Yerusha. The understanding was I'm getting the Yerusha the same way that my father had it. Yeah, fine. So Amrulay, so they said to him on Tomei Beis, I'm sorry. Amrle Mar Yenuka Mar Kshisha Breder of Chisel Ravashi. So this is interesting. What's their names? Mar Yenuka and Mar Kshisha. Yenuka means a young one. Kshisha means an old one. Right. So Taisa says that Yenuka is the older one. Right. So you would think that there's two brothers. One his name is Yanuka, which is the young one, and one is Kshisha, is the old one. Taisa says the Yanuka, the one called Yanuka, is the Gadol. Why? Because he was born when Rav Chisda was young. Right? And Mar Kshisha is Rav Chisda's youngest son, and he was born when Rav Chisda was old. Right? So that's an interesting. It's an interesting. There are other proportions that say no. Yeduka means he's the younger brother, and Kshisha means he's the older brother. But either way, they both said Nahardoi l'tamayu. The people from Nahardoi, who's Rav Chama and Shmuel, right? They said Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, ha'achin shecholku, brothers that split, Einlan loy derech zelzeh, they don't have access. They don't have a derech in each other's properties. They don't have windows on each other. And not ladders on each other. And they can't have water access. Right? Meaning basically, they both don't have access. Even though normally the way to access one guy's field is you go through another field. That's just as a mushal. They don't have that. Right? And he said, and be careful, shahalachas kvuas, because they are halachas kvuas. So according to these shitas, you can't say that they yarshin the same access that their father had. Doesn't work. Right? According to them, from the Hardoi, Rav Chama and Shmuel, they both hold no, you don't get access like the father. Each one yarshins the field. Now, if you're going to want to have to make a water ditch going through his, or you need water access, or you need access bechlal, you're going to have to pay for it because you don't yarshin the way your father had. But Rava Amar Yeshlan, and Rava disagrees, and he says they do have. Right? So that's an interesting, and then it changes to Rav. Right? That's the Bach. The Bach changes to Rav, which makes sense. Right? Because it's Rav against Shmuel. So yeah, so it comes out with this machlokes. It's a machlokes over whether he's allowed to, whether when two brothers split things, do they have access to it the way their father had it, which is what Rav holds, or do they not, and they just consider like two total different partners. Fine. Then the Gemara says, "Who started the Yasmi Denafki Tabra?" It was a star from Yisaimim, meaning a guy died, and then when he died, so the Yisaimim found an IOU that the guy was owed a lot of money. So they went and they went to the borrower and they said, "Hey, you owe my father money," and then he shows them a receipt that he already paid the father back. So now what's going on here? So Amar Rav Chama, two things. We can't collect on the loan because we can't tear up the star either. We can't collect it because the bottom line is the guy has a receipt that he paid. Mikra like Karina, but we can't tear up the IOU. Because maybe when the Yisaimim grow up, then they'll have the ability to bring a proof and say that receipt was a scam. So Mamela, you can't do anything. And Rashi says that when they get older, then they'll have to deal with it. What is this? What is the bottom line? What's the halacha? And all these things, the halacha is like Rav Chama. The Varmi Tavra, except for this case with the receipt, this last case with the receipt with the Yisaimim. The Sadi B'Shakri Laimach Sekinon, because we don't say that Eidim are liars. Right? Meaning there are Eidim on this receipt, otherwise what would it be worth? If you knock out this receipt, so then you're basically saying that witnesses are worthless, and you can't do that. So Mamela, you can't. You're basically going to have to say that they don't have to pay it back. I mean, he doesn't have to pay back the assignment because Lamaisi has a receipt. Fine. Marzutra Breder Amari Amar Bahon Nami Hilchasukar Rav Chama. Marzutra Breder Amari says like this: the halacha is like Rav Chama. Dim Isa to Tabra Ma'al Yehu, because if he says that it's a good receipt, then he should have brought it out in the father's lifetime. Meaning, why didn't he deal with this when the father was alive? Why are you letting the father still have an IOU even though you have a receipt? And this that he didn't bring out the receipt until after the father died. Sure sounds like there's some sort of hanky panky going on here. And so Shmami knows the Yufe Zaifi, so therefore must be he forged it. Meaning when the father was alive, he probably didn't think he'd get away with forging the receipt. Right? But now that the father's dead, so he figured, okay, these are Yisaimim, they don't know any better. I'll be able to get away with I'll get away.
Yaakov, this seems to go against all that we learned about stars. I'm just saying, like, if you're Mekayim a star, the din is the Edom are considered real Edom, and you can't say Ziyufim is Ivy. That was sugis upon sugis we learned in Kedushin, in Ksubis, everywhere. When it comes to stars, if you're Mekayim a star is a star. That's Edis. You can't say Ziyufim is Ivy all of a sudden.
No, so okay, so I know, but I think we're maybe missing a fact here. Right? I think he had Adim. Could it be?
So then the stars. What does that mean? You have Adim?
No, he had Adim that the father tried to collect on the loan and he couldn't.
So that's not because of what the Gemara is saying.
What do you mean?
Well, that is with the shaver. You're saying combined with the shaver, it's enough, or combined with the fact that he only brought it out later, it's enough. The Gemara doesn't say that reason.
No, it doesn't say that. That I think that's part of the issue. No,
I don't know. I mean, this Marzuch's star goes against everything we learned about stars.
Right, but not if you said that there were Adim there.
Then Stam is a bad star.
Well, it's not a bad star because there's a star with Adim, but there's Adim that are going against it.
I don't know. That's Iker Chasam and Hashat.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Yeah. Okay, let's see the vision of it. The Kaifin Oisai live nice base Shar Videlas Lachatza. So that we had this brought before. You have a city. Now the city needs to, it's not really a city, I'm sorry. Here is talking about a yard. And basically what yards were is you had a bunch of people, like in Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim, they have it. Bunch of people, there's a bunch of apartments and they all open up into one yard. Right? So now this yard doesn't have a door. So all the people from Rosh Hashanah keep looking in there. Right? So so basically you pay the guy to, you have to force everybody in the yard, in the chutzner, to pay for a door. Right? So Kavinois live nice base shar v'delas l'chutzner. You can force him to build a base shar, a gate, and a door for the chutzner. Not all chatzeros are right to have to pay for a base shar. What the Gemara is basically going to say is that the guys in the way in the back, they don't care that people from Rosh Hashanah could see in. They don't live along the Rosh Hashanah. Meaning there are some houses that are closer to the street and some further back. So why should they have to pay for it? Right? Live nicely, and then people from the city, you can force them to build for the city a wall, doors, and briach is like a lock, like a piece of like the briach hatichan. What do you call it? Bolt? Yes, thank you. He says the same thing. Not everybody in the city. Not every city needs a wall, right? But we'll see in the Gemara what that means. How long do you have to live in a city in order to be considered part of the city? You'd base chaydash 12 months. Kanaba base dira. If you bought a house in the city, then you become a member of the city right away. Meaning, let's say you're traveling through and you're temporarily in the city. So if you're there for a year, then you got to pay all the taxes and pay for all these fees. If you're less than a year, you don't have to. But if you bought a house, then you immediately become a member of the city. Then you have to pay up. Okay, so the Gemara says, the Maimra, do you mean to say the Beis Shar Mal Yusahi? Do you mean to say that a Beis Shar is a good thing? It's a Maila to have a Beis Shar. Ahu Chasida, there was a Chassid Abaragel Eliyahu. I guess he was a major Chassid because Eliyahu Navi used to come to him to have a Mishtoi B'Adei and he would talk to him. Over Beis Shar, the Sulay Mishtoi B'Adei, and then this Chassid put up a Beis Shar by his Chatzar, and Eliyahu Navi didn't come to him anymore. Right? Why not? Because he was blocking tzedakah from people to come in. Right? He wouldn't be able to hear the aniyim coming to collect. So Eliyahu Navi didn't like that. So when it says like kasha, it's not a kasha. So when it says a bunch of kashas, Hamagavoy, one is talking about where they put it on the inside. Right? Basically, they made two doors. So Mamela, they put up a second door on the inside, which then they really could not hear the aniyim. And Hamibrai, one is talking about from the outside, where they just put a door on the outside. That's not anything extra, and they'd still be able to hear the aniyim. Riba is saying, they're both talking about with the outside door. For like kasha had isla delis. One is talking about where they actually put a door on it, right? Which means the aniyim are not going to come into the chutzah because there's a door. And had the less delis. But if they didn't put on a door, they just put a gate there, then that's fine. Iba is saying, or a third teretz. Hava had the isla delis. Both talking about where there's a door. But like kasha had the isla pesachas. This one is somewhere where it had a lock. And all the less lepesachas, this one did not have a lock. So if it didn't have a lock, the aniyim could walk right in. Iba is saying, this lepesachas, they're both talking about where he had a lock. But like kasha, hata pesachas tidei megavoy. This is where his pesachas was on the inside, meaning the lock opened up from the inside. So if it was locked, the aniyim couldn't get in. Hata pesachas tidei mavrai, but where the key is on the outside, right? I mean, not the key, the lock's on the outside. So then the aniyim could poke their head in and ask for help. I don't know exactly what that means. What's the point? Right? What's the point of putting it there if not right? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point is putting a lock on the outside where the aniyim could access your house, right? Or your chutzah. Fine. Anyway, it says, so we forced him to build a Beis Shar and a Delis l'chutzah. Tanya Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, not every chutzah is right to have a Beis Shar. Only a chutzah that's close to Rosh Hashanah. I didn't explain it right before. Meaning, there's different chatzeres that open up into a street, into a mavoi. Right? So the chatzeres that are closer to Rosh Hashanah, they need a door. The ones that are further back, they don't need a door. Right? So again, the yards that are closer to the street, they should have a gate. And those that are not close to the Beisha, they don't need a gate. So therefore, if that's the case, if some of the members of the yard want to put up a gate, it's not necessary enough to require everybody to pay. For Rabbanon. And the Rabbanan, how come the Rabbanan say that all yards have to pay? Because sometimes the people from Shusarabim get stuffed into the mavoi, and they can go up and they can come to the inside to the chutzah. So therefore, since the runoff of the Shusarabim could cause problems, so therefore every chutzah is required to pay. Fine, and a similar Gemara with the cities. So kaifin isa live nicely here. So we can force the people from the city to put up gates and locks, etc. So not every city, a city that's close to the border that requires a wall. That's why I think Kiryas Sefer. I don't know if that's where it comes from because it's on the other, it's by the border, but I'm not sure. But if you're not a border city, so then why are you making everybody put up a wall? There's no security risk for Abanon. Zimnin, the Mikrovasi guys. No, sometimes they could come and attack a city that's even inside the walls. I mean, you can use October 7th as a muscle for this, right? I mean, the border cities need a wall, but they'll advance even further if necessary. Not if necessary, if they could get away with it. Fine. So let's see a little bit. When they go collect, let's say you have a household of 10 people. Do they pay the same price as a household of 2 people, or do they pay according to the bodies? So it's lefina fashis goyven or dilma lefi shvach mammon goyven, or do they go based on how much money you have? Meaning, if you have a lot of money, it's a much more necessary for you to have a wall. If you don't have that much money, then you don't need a wall. Like, what are they stealing from you already? Right? It's interesting because I think similar. I don't know if it's exactly the case, but a lot of people have these Zoom video cameras, and they wonder if they can keep it on Shabbos, right? So if it's stam a guy, I mean, Zoom is not catching you anybody, right? Zoom is not gonna. I mean, it's gonna catch you. I'm sorry, it's gonna catch people. You'll see if chas v'shalom somebody breaks in. It ain't protecting your house. It's not protecting your house to have your Zoom camera on, right? It's not protecting your house. It's helping you catch things. So therefore, why should you be recorded? But on the other hand, if you're somebody who, for whatever reason, has a lot of money, and for whatever reason you're scared, and therefore it's going to give you Yishuv Adas on Shabbos to have the camera on. So maybe for you have a heter. Maybe I'm just talking theoretical. I'm not talking any sort of lemais. But so here too, the guy that's very wealthy, for him it's much more of a necessity. So maybe he has to pay. It should be based on your income. Yeah. So Amar Lei, Lefi Mammon Gavin. He said we go according to money. And he said, and Elazar my son, put nails into it. Meaning, don't paskin this way. I'm sorry, paskin this way, and don't go away from this psak. Ikadamri, Bamine Rebbe Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan, Kishain Goyven, Lefi Kiruv Batamein Goyven, or Dumma Lefi Mammon Goyven. A different version. He's saying, do we say that you go, the ones that live closer to the wall, so they need more of a reason, they're more protection? Or do we go according to the money? We go with the Kiruv Batam. Elazar Bini, Kava Bamasmaras, and Elazar my son put nails into it. Should put nails into it. This psak doesn't go away. Okay, we'll stop over there. Because the next one is a long sugi about tzedakah. We get involved in a lot of hilchos tzedakah for the next couple of days. Yeah. All right. Shkayach, I apologize.